not to avoid the pain, but to keep him out of the process of making Eve. Again, time is not specified here. It is just in the beginning. How many tries did the us go through to make Eve? What was her function? Genesis tells us that Adam needed a comparable helper, and part of the help was to be fruitful and multiply. And while I will not go into sex theology or doctrine, and yes, that is a thing, I will say there is something important to note about the creation story, the Adamah, the ground from which Adam was created, and that Isha, meaning bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh, who Adam then names as Isha, and he is the Ish. And we now know them as Eve, which is Isha, and Adam, which is Ish. This helps to illustrate the intention that may exist in Genesis, that is further complicated by the rest of the sacred text. Clay has memory. And what if part of Eve was a replica of Adam that the us actually did not create, but that the clay itself molded itself back into its original form that was once in the Adam? There are so many questions that come up for me and so many directions to take on this one thought and many subsequent theological implications. I am not here to expand on theology or doctrine, and that is not my place at the moment. What I merely wanted to create was just the clay making. And I will say the us in the beginning, where God created the heavens and the earth, and the us that created Adam in their image from the Adamah, and that Isha was formed. All of this working with the clay, the red ground, the Adamah, or perhaps we can call it clay. We learn about consulting, the tenderness, the gentleness in which you have to work with the clay in order to keep the form you make. And if you make a mistake, we know that the Adamah is full of grace. And yet we only know this process because we, as the Adams, the Ishas and the Ishas, have continued the process of clay making. And we learn from our own mistakes what possibly could have happened in the beginning. One final words that I would like to say are the words that God said at the end of the creation. It is good. Like so many clay artists, the words inevitably come out. What do you think about what you created? In many instances, it is a shrug. Next time, I'll do more of this, or I'll do more of that. Very rarely do you hear a clay artist say, it is good about their creation. But when they do, you know it is a culmination of all the mistakes, of all the time they put in, and all of the intention coming together in a perfect moment that has produced a one thing, that one thing that aligned with their version of good. So folks, time is time, and time is beautiful, and time is hard, and time is full of creating, and time is full of grieving, and time is unpredictable, and yet time is what is needed to make that one thing in which we can look and say, it is good. The making of Eve is a dance that I hope to incorporate all of these elements. And yet, maybe the dance is this process, to only be repeated with another residency proposal. Maybe, maybe not. Thank you for your time. Thank you for everything. Thank you for your words, and thank you for being here.